Welcome back, Mets fans, to another week of Raise the Apple. We have a very big topic to discuss. Last week was all about Pete Rose. This week is going to be pretty much all about Juan Soto, and we're going to talk about all of it. But first, the Mets salvaged the last game of the series with the Red Sox yesterday. Francisco Lindor homered. Brett Beatty had 3 RBIs and plays a hell of a third base. I think long term, when it comes to Brett Beatty, part of me thinks that Brett Beatty should be playing third and Vientos should be DHing. I mean, I wish there was a way to mush the two of them together where you get Vientos' bat and Beatty's defense. But Beatty, since coming back up, he has been hitting great. So I like what the Mets have going right now with Vientos at DH and Beatty playing third. It's a big upgrade defensively, and the offense of Vientos still is there. When Winker comes back, probably over the summer, I would say, when he's back from injury, I think that'll change a lot of things. And also, Ronnie Mauricio's getting healthy too, so if he comes up, that could change a lot of things as well. But the Mets, it's no question right now, the last week or so, the Mets have stunk. The offense has been very sluggish. The team just has looked flat for the last week or so. And that's part of what Steve Cohen said. It's part of the ups and downs and the roller coasters of a Major League Baseball season. I'm not overly worried about it. You know, you see a lot of the haters. Twitter is a minefield. I love and hate it so much how people are on that app. But you would think that seeing the reactions from people that the Mets are like Baltimore, where Baltimore's like 12 or 13 games under 500 or something like that, you'd think that that's where the Mets are with the way people are responding. The Mets are 2 games back for the Phillies. The Phillies did catch them. The Phillies have won 7 straight. But the Mets they're still 10 games over 500. They're only 2 games behind the Phillies. I think the Mets and Phillies are going to go back and forth the entire summer. I think Atlanta's still in it, but I don't, until Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back, I don't think they're a threat to the division. But he should be coming back this weekend, so that could change a lot of things come summertime. But a lot of people also talked about how the Mets had such a cupcake schedule. The Mets are 19-12 this year against teams above 500. They are one of, when I was looking at it beforehand, 4 teams in the National League, and I believe 5 or 6 in all of baseball, who have a winning record against teams above 500. So you can talk about they've had a cupcake schedule, but they're still winning against the teams that are good. The Mets have struggled, though, this year on the road. That's no secret. They've been so dominant at home. If they can just pick it up a little bit on the road, they'll be fine. I mean, if I'd rather have the Mets struggling now in May rather than come September when there's a week left of the season and the Mets, Phillies, and Braves are all separated by 2 games with a week to go, and then the Mets just fall flat on their face. So I'd rather get those games out of the way now. But day off today, and going into the weekend, the Dodgers come into town, and then eventually the Mets got the White Sox and the Rockies on the docket as well. The first round of the Subway Series, I'm not going to tip my hat to the Yankees fans because they're scumbags. I'll tip my cap to the Yankees, the organization. They flat out outplayed the Mets. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to make excuses. They deserve to win that series, and frankly, they deserve to sweep that series. I know they only won 2 out of 3, but the Yankees just kicked the crap out of the Mets, to be blunt. The Mets didn't come to play. McGill struggled. The game the Mets won, it took till the 9th inning for a Lindor sac fly, and then Sunday Night Baseball was just the start of this whole Soto drama. So, Sunday Night Baseball, to strike out Aaron Judge in that spot with the bases loaded in the 8th inning, and then to give up a grand slam to Cody Bellinger, I would rather Judge hit the grand slam, to be honest. That was mean for the Mets to tease it like that. But the Yankees just flat out they outplayed the Mets that whole series. Round 2 will be at Citi Field, 4th of July weekend. So I like the Mets' chances in that better. I think it's just because of how much better the Mets are at home. But the Yankees deserve to win that series. But that series was the start of all of the Juan Soto drama. So Juan Soto makes his return to Yankee Stadium. I know this may be it's a little late now, later in the week, but I like to wait for everything to unfold and then talk about it instead of rushing and then with only half the story or half the information and then having to come back and do it again. I'd rather just wait and do it all in one go. Soto's return to the Bronx did not go well. He got one hit, walked 4 times, and you have Yankees fans giving him a standing ovation but booing him. And then he tips his hat to the crowd, which I loved. I thought it was hysterical, but at the same time it's like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to give it back to him a little bit, you better show up. And Soto, frankly, he didn't show up. It is what it is with that. But Yankees fans can deny it all they want. Juan Soto lives in their head rent-free. He was there for 1 year. He was in the Bronx for 1 year. And Yankees fans are acting like he's a homegrown talent that was drafted, developed, brought up through the Yankees farm system, and he had been there for the last decade. Now, if Aaron Judge was a free agent and signed with the Mets like Soto did, I could understand Yankees fans being very pissed off about that. But Soto was there for 1 year. I don't understand it. I don't understand Yankees logic. And Yankees fans will comment back and be like, "Oh, well, if the roles were reversed, then Mets fans would be the same way about Soto." I don't think we would. Mets fans have never turned their backs on players in the way the Yankees fans literally turned their backs on Juan Soto the first night of the Subway Series. How many times the Mets have lost players or saw some of their franchise great players go to the Yankees? Doc and Darryl, for example. And when they came back last year, when their numbers were retired, Mets fans welcomed them back with open arms. If this situation happened where Soto was with us for a year and then went to the Bronx and signed that big contract, yeah, Mets fans would be probably upset. But turning your back on a player? I thought that was so cringy watching them do. I understand the boos. I understand booing's part of sports. I'm fine with that. I expected. I mean, Mets fans would probably boo as well. There would probably be a mix of boos and cheers. Considering you went to the World Series the year before, and Soto was one of 2 reasons you were in the World Series, because if you take Soto and Judge off that Yankees team's not going to the World Series. They were carried to the World Series by Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. So I don't blame the Yankees fans for booing him, but literally turning their back on him after he was there for 1 year has to be one of the most cringy things I've ever seen in sports. And then you have some of the Yankees fans, the bleacher creatures that all have their backs turned, and some of them turn their head. They want to make sure Soto's watching. Like he cares. He's making $765 million. He doesn't care that you turn your back on him. Sorry. And it's not like I hate. This is turning into a tangent on Yankees fans. I hate when Yankees fans say that Soto is chasing the money. When Soto signed with the Mets, the Yankees' offer was almost the same. So it wasn't a matter of money, because the Yankees offered him almost the same amount of dollars. It was a few less years. I believe it was 10 years or 12 years for like $760 or $750 or something like that, and the Mets was 15 for $765. So he's not chasing the money. The Yankees offered him almost just as much money as the Mets. He wanted to be a Met, and Yankees fans cannot deal with that for whatever reason. He chose the Mets, and Yankees fans just cannot accept that. A lot of people. So now we'll kind of transition into Soto. Soto, yes, he stunk during the Subway Series. Oh well. Then comes Sunday Night Baseball, where he gets that little jam shot to second base where time like froze for a second and he's jogging instead of trying to beat it out. And then the media ran wild because the media sucks, especially New York sports media, where they're talking about how Soto doesn't look happy as a Met and he regrets signing with the Mets and he's got no hustle and this and that. And you had one guy that was spewing that Mets hierarchy is concerned with Soto's lack of enthusiasm, and you have ESPN that's telling a story that everyone missed, I myself included. I didn't see it until on Twitter the next day, where ESPN was saying that Soto he doesn't even travel with the team. He takes private jets. Him and his family have a private jet chartered to away games, which the fact that Jeff Passan, and Andy Martino of all people, has to clear that up. The fact that him and Passan have to clear that up tells you all you need to know about the Soto drama. Steve Cohen, when he bought this team, he has been nothing but transparent with Mets fans. We saw it in spring training when he was talking about the Pete Alonso contract negotiations and how he didn't like how they were going. He's been nothing but brutally honest with Mets fans. And I find it hard to believe that Steve Cohen would spend $765 million on Juan Soto if he thought Juan Soto was going to be a problem. When it comes to the clubhouse, with what they built last year, with what we've seen in the media with players and what they've said about the Mets organization, I just do not believe for a second that Steve Cohen would spend that much money on Juan Soto if he thought he was going to be a problem. And Soto, yeah, I don't know why he's not shuffling. Maybe he's trying to mellow out a little bit, but you do have to take into account the human side of it. It does take I'm never going to be a professional athlete, so I'm not going to act like I know, but it's just using common sense. When you sign the biggest contract in the history of professional sports, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And I know a lot of people are going to counter with, well, I don't feel bad for him. He's making $800 million. You have to consider that. He's going into the locker room every day knowing I'm making $800 million. I need to play like I'm making $800 million. And that is a lot of pressure on a player. You're not considering the human aspect of it. And it does take time sometimes for guys to adjust to new teams. Especially a guy like Soto, who hasn't really established himself as in a home spot. He was with the Nationals, then got traded to San Diego, then got traded to the Yankees. Now signs his first long-term deal. It takes time for players to adjust. And I'm not worried about Soto. I have no doubt come September that Juan Soto's numbers will be Juan Soto numbers. He has one of the highest on-base percentages in the league. He's still taking his walks. That's part of his game. He's not going to hit 330 with 50 home runs and 130 RBI. He's never been that type of player. So I'm not expecting him to do that. I am expecting him to be one of the top players in the National League, but I think by the time this season ends and come September, I do not doubt Juan Soto's numbers will be where they should be. The media is trying to almost turn Mets fans against Juan Soto. Are we forgetting Francisco Lindor's first year as a Met? Francisco Lindor's first year went awful. Same with the 1 year with Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz's first year with us, he was awful. And then they both look at where they are now and how important they are to this team. It's okay that Soto's struggling right now, finding his footing and trying to figure it out. You can argue he needs to be running out of the box. Yeah, he needs to stop staring at what aren't home runs, thinking they're home runs, which half the Mets did this weekend at Fenway Park. That green monster toyed with them all weekend. Francisco Lindor's first year with the Mets was a disaster. Juan Soto's first year with the Mets isn't even over yet, and people are already giving up on it. I'm not worried about Soto. You can argue that his hustle and all that stuff, I understand that. I think that's a valid argument. I would like to see a little more swag from him personally. I'd like to see the Soto Shuffle come back. I don't know why he's not doing it. But the Mets would not have brought him in with the culture and the team they have. They would not brought him in if he was going to be a negative and pull it down. There's a reason to everything. You know, the Mets know what they're doing now. When we have a competent owner in charge, and we have a competent GM, and we have a competent manager all working together, the Mets now are starting to run like a professional sports team. So I'm not worried about what's going on with Soto. I'm more worried that people are believing a lot of the fake news crap that's in the media right now with the private jet story, and the Mets are concerned with his lack of enthusiasm, and I think that's all just a bunch of garbage. You had Pedro Martinez advocating for Juan Soto. You have multiple other players and other media personnel that are saying, you know, he's fine, like, quit making this into something it's not. And I think right now it's just him adjusting to being a Met. I don't know the psychological part of that. I mean, only Juan Soto knows. And Juan Soto, to me, he is all business when it comes to baseball. He's all business. I'm not worried about his performance. I mean, right now, yes, would I like him to be performing better? Yeah, but I would also like the Mets to not go entering last night 5 for 44 with runners at scoring position over a week stretch. So you got to kind of choose your battles there with that one. Mine stuffed up. But it's the corny Yankee fans and just the way the New York sports media has been about Juan Soto. I think it's being blown grossly out of proportion. That's just my take on it. I'm not overly concerned about him. Like I keep repeating myself now. I'm not worried about it. What I am worried about is this Mets offense, because I know I said earlier it's early in the year, but the last week has been tough to watch. So hopefully a day off today, reset, and then back home this weekend for the Dodgers. It's going to be a huge series for the Mets because the Dodgers do not have Roki Sasaki. They do not have Tyler Glasnow. They do not have Blake Snell. They're all injured. I know Teoscar Hernandez just came back a little bit ago from being injured. Of course, they got Shohei. Freddie Freeman's one of the top hitters in the league again. And Clayton Kershaw still going. I think Kershaw, Verlander, and Max Scherzer have like a unspoken bet with each other to who can last the longest between the three of them. But I also think that it would be awesome for baseball if the three of them could just retire together. So the Mets will face Kershaw this weekend. That's always a lot of fun. There's literally last time, the last memory I have of Kershaw at Citi Field was in 2015, where like there was all the rumors that he was going to throw a no-hitter or a perfect game against the Mets, and then he went and actually flirted with one. So it's always fun to watch Clayton Kershaw, but I hope the Mets can get back on track against the Dodgers this weekend. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this week's episode. Lots of Juan Soto stuff to unpack here. The corny Yankee fans just proving why everyone hates them. And hopefully the Mets can get back on track. It's still a lot of baseball left to be played. No need to hit the panic alarm yet. So that's going to wrap it up pretty much for this week. Make sure you follow on YouTube, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, and Twitter. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all that good stuff. Thank you for tuning in this week. We'll catch you next week. Hopefully the Mets can get back into first place. Only 2 games behind the Phillies now. So make sure you subscribe and follow, and let's go Mets.